Welcome back. Joining me today will be Tara Kindon, and we'll be looking at branding through astrology. And also we'll be talking to Joanna Brown, and Joanna will teach you how to get that right pitch for making the right sale. Don't go away. We'll be right back. Welcome to Women Rising. I'm Catherine Taylor, and we are at the 2024 Enloe Conference in St. John's, Newfoundland and Labrador, where we are meeting incredible women entrepreneurs and learning about their journeys. And none is more interesting than my guest today, who works with astrology and branding. I'd like you to meet Tara Kindon. Tara, welcome.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, a pleasure. We have been talking now for a few years, and I get more excited every time about what you're doing. And I gave a little introduction, but could you tell us more?
Yes, so I love working with multi-passionate female entrepreneurs who are really looking to grow their brands in a very authentic way where they can kind of streamline and monetize all of their many passions, because I really feel like in today's day and age we must diversify our income. So doing that in many ways, but making it really simple using your astrology is a way that I love to help empower a woman in her business.
Well, maybe nothing is more powerful than our astrology, because it's where we were born.
It's the foundation.
The foundation. If I'm a novice at this, but it's where we arrived. It's our energy. It's our sign. So, for example, taking me, I'm an Aries. What would you say to someone who's an Aries?
Well, Aries energy is a very initiating energy. So people, and I can tell this just by being in your energy anyways, that you just have this attractor factor. People love being initiated around you and get excited around you and motivated around you. You're a trailblazer. I mean, you're doing something so unique, bringing women together, and being in the energy of someone like that is very inspirational and exciting. And that's why people will be attracted to you and your work.
Well, now I feel good.
That's the job. When you get to know who you are fundamentally, you relax into yourself and you feel authentic. I think this is one of the biggest challenges for entrepreneurs in general, is feeling confident in their work, but knowing that that's who they are meant to be, and then owning it and not shying away from it. Like as an Aries, that it's powerful energy to be around. But if you played small, it would be a disservice to the women who are inspired by you, because they're excited and they want you to lead. And the more you lead, the more excited they get and the more inspired they are to do their thing.
And so when I hear that, I think, okay, yeah, this sounds great. This sounds a lot like my bubbly energy. What about colors then? What would I look at in terms of branding with colors?
So you can utilize the colors that are associated with Aries, which can be your reds, burnt oranges. I mean, just looking at your hair already speaks to the colors of that vibration and that brightness and bold, even though it's just like a subtle tone of the reds and the ambers, that's perfectly aligned. Yellows, golds, any of that.
I have to rebrand.
And it's just a touch. It's just when you use your ascendant with your astrology, which is getting a little complicated for those who aren't familiar, but our ascendant sign is the face we put onto the world. So it's how people see us, even if we don't quite see ourselves that way. The more you can embrace that, the easier it is for people to feel comfortable around you, right? And then on the opposite side of your chart is where you get into your intimate relationships, your collaborations and your partnerships. They see the other side of you. And we're always trying to balance both sides of our energy.
Well, I think by using myself as an example, it gives our audience a good idea of how this works and what it feels like. What brought you to this?
I've been an entrepreneur for 30 years. I've been branding myself in many different ways. I've hired a lot of branding experts. I've done a lot of different things in my life. And when I found astrology, it gave me the permission, astrology and human design, they gave me the permission to really be myself, because I knew I was different. And as a manifestor, we're 8% of the population. It's kind of it's an exciting thing to know, but also how do you integrate this information? And when somebody's brand new to this world of astrology or anything, the cosmic, they're like, I don't really get it. It's a little out there for me. But I'm like, just stay with me until I explain a couple of things to you. So when I learned these things for myself, it actually made my life so much easier and made me show up in my business more myself, which magnetized clients.
Yeah, and I've really noticed through your social media profiles how you come through. It's very powerful, and it really does draw me in. And I know you're using your method to do it.
It changed my business.
Yeah.
It gave me viral reels. It started bringing the right women towards me. I only work with women. So when I'm a Libra rising, and when I started leading with this, I'm leading with friendship, and you trust me. When you come into my world, I'm there with you for the long haul. And on the opposite side of my chart is the Aries. So the people who stay with me forever, they know I'm here to initiate them. So you and I are opposite, right? If you're Aries on the ascendant, you're Libra on the other side. So people will stay with you long term because they trust you. They feel like you are looking for equality and justice and balance and relationships, and you're on an equal playing field with people. You don't come from a place of hierarchy, and that comes through, and people feel relaxed around that energy. So I lead with that, but then on the opposite side is the Aries, so they know I'm going to help them get things going and take action for themselves. And if they're not ready to take action, or they won't take action ever, they know I'm not their person.
Right. And that's a big part of business, is finding the right fit, who is the right client for you, and not everyone is.
No.
I think that's a message that we hear a lot from women entrepreneurs. But speaking of taking action, I want to just talk for a few minutes about your book, The Soul Flow. And this book is something that was a work of passion for you that probably seemed impossible when you started out. Tell me about it.
Yeah, so at a time I was going through a transition, I had I had a yoga studio business that was very successful. It was my second multi-six-figure business, and I was very excited about it, but then I was ready to shift gears from it. I was looking for something different, and I wanted to read stories of courageous Canadian women who had overcome massive challenge or broke through, parts of their lives that they wanted to change and go in completely different directions. And there was no inspiring stories about it. So I was like, I need to write this book, and I want to interview women. And then I'm like, okay, how am I going to do that? Well, I'm going to need to travel across the country, of course, to interview women everywhere. And I was a Lululemon ambassador. So they got behind me and helped me do workshops across the country and planet, introduced me to some women. And I asked all my contacts, like, who do you know that's amazing that would be perfect for this? And I basically bought a van and lived in a van for 30 days, traveled across the country living in the van, and took a photographer with me. And we basically interviewed 21 women across the country in a 30-day period and created this beautiful book. So
What an amazing project, and I have to pick it up again and just show a few of the images here of the different women. And it's such a lovely read because it's a page really with their perspective, what they've been through, many different things that they've been through, and a delightful, uplifting book. And I find the story of how you did it equally as uplifting, and knowing from where I sit to do 21 interviews like this in 30 days plus cross the country.
It was crazy.
Yeah.
It was definitely crazy, but I live for adventure and I walk my talk. So, if I'm trying to encourage someone to get things started and they're like, I can't see how it can happen. You don't need to see the whole picture. You just need to see the next step. And if you have enough faith and trust in your own abilities, which is what I love to empower people to do, it works out. It always works out. You can't fail. If you get the road blocked, there's always something that's going to open up and give you another way to go through. It's like when one door closes, a window opens, and then you go through the window and see where that takes you. And that was this, because I'm like, okay, I've bought a van. Now it's going to cost however much to outfit this van. Like, how am I going to do that? And then, I need logos on the outside. How am I going to do that? And money just found its way to me because I was in the energy of this will happen. the right people will support this mission and I will get it done. So I started a Kickstarter campaign and successfully raised over $10,000 to do the things, add part of, getting this printed and all of that work, which was only 38% of Kickstarter campaigns get funded. I didn't even know that. I was like, no is not an option. This is not going to work. This is how this is going to go. And I had the faith that it will work out, and it did.
Wow. And I think that's the kind of attitude that so many women entrepreneurs bring to their businesses, simply because there's no other option. We're going to do it. We have the idea. It's going to get done. Check that off.
I agree with you 100%, is that women have a different kind of fire. It's like, especially if you're supporting a family, or this is do or die, like I need this to work. There's no other option, especially, if you have a job that isn't giving you the freedom and the lifestyle that you want, or you can't even afford to pay for things for your family, you have a burning ambition, and there's no one or nothing, like the mama bear gets activated, and there's no one who can stop that ball from continuing to go.
Wow. Well, what a great note to end this discussion for Women Rising. And people can find you in Norman's Cove. And again, I love the fact that we can be anywhere in this province. Thank you, technology.
Thank you, technology.
Thank you, technology. We can work from anywhere. And thank you, Tara. This has been just a joy.
Thank you so much for having me.
Now, don't go away. We'll be right back with more engaging information to challenge your mind. Welcome back. We're here on the floor to meet some of the participants in the trade show, and we are here now with Edgewise Environmental. Two of the employees, Jennifer, hi.
Hi.
And Emily.
Hi there.
Hi. Now tell us a little bit about what you're doing here and the business. We'll start with you, Jennifer.
So we're a marine environmental consultancy. So we actually developed Canada's first formalized training for marine mammal observers. So we train people to go offshore and do marine mammal observation, seabird observation, and passive acoustic monitoring. We're also a marine environmental consultancy, so we offered tailored solutions for marine mammal mitigation, mainly in the offshore industry, and we're really focusing on the renewable energy sector now. So we're doing a lot with the oil and gas industry, and then moving towards offshore wind and things like that. We're currently developing a product using AI and drone technology to identify marine mammals. So we're going to pair that with what we already do with our visual monitoring and our PAM monitoring, and actually increase accuracy and really better improve the offshore technology for marine mammal observation and mitigation.
Well, Jennifer, I've learned a lot. I'm not sure I understand it all, but I've certainly learned a lot. And Emily, what brought you to this company?
So I did marketing in school, really into the digital marketing and all of that stuff. I've lived in Newfoundland my entire life, right next to the water, and really always kind of drifted towards it. So seeing Edgewise and kind of what they did and their mission really kind of drew me to Edgewise and their mission. And really made me want to work with them.
Yeah.
And what are some of the big projects on the go for the future?
So like Jen mentioned, right now we're currently developing a course with Whale Seeker using their technology called Mobius. So we're in the process of getting ready to launch a course to incorporate our training with their technology. So that's something that's really big that's coming down the pipeline.
Sounds so exciting, and not something we hear about every day, and not something as traditional as what we think about as women-owned businesses. Yeah. And the owner of your business, she's not here right at the moment, her name is?
Ashley Noseworthy.
And Ashley is presenting at the seminars today.
She is.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for your time, and we'll be keeping an eye on you. As we continue our tour of the trade show, we've landed here in Salt Sea and Twig with Liz Comden. Liz, your story is so interesting. Just share it with the folks.
Sure. So we are a sustainable, eco-conscious skincare company. I also make jewelry as well. That's my creative aspect and my outlet. And we use a lot of wild foraged ingredients right from the land and the sea of Newfoundland. And we use it to really highlight the beauty of what Newfoundland and Labrador has to offer.
And I love the fact that you worked Gateway to Trade with Deb Uden. Let's talk about that.
Yes. Deb has been amazing in helping me grow the business, and so we did the Gateway to Trade. Well, I did the Gateway to Trade program with her back in 2022, and that really was a helpful launch into learning how to export and move the product from the small community of Cormac that I live in to across Canada and internationally.
And you are going on a trade mission coming up?
Yes, we are heading to Atlanta, Georgia in May, and we've been working with the Atlantic Canadian governments through a launch export trade program, and that's bringing us to Atlanta in May to learn more about trade and export into the United States and internationally.
Sounds all very exciting. Thank you so much. And the wonderful things you can do with Enlo and the experiences you can have. Can't see enough, but thank you so much and best of luck. Liz.
Thank you.
Welcome back. Joining me is Joanna Brown of the company Rivet. Joanna, welcome.
Hi, so nice to see you.
Very nice to see you. We have met virtually.
Yes.
I'm one of your students.
Oh, I'm so happy about that.
We're doing Pitch Perfect. We'll get back to that. I want to talk first about Rivet. That's the first I've heard that name. I love it.
Well, that's because it's hot off the presses. so I've been doing sales consulting for a few years, and I just went full time with it. And so Rivet is going to be a sales enablement company, and we have the awesome Sophie Harrington doing all the branding and getting things ready. So the work continues, but that's coming soon.
I'm excited because I have, I get to sit with you every week, and you get to coach us all and bring us out of our shells. Really hard to do with me, but maybe put me back in. You get to coach us, and you're teaching us what to say when we go out there and present ourselves to the world and want to sell our products. So how did you get that gig?
Sure. So I'm based here in Newfoundland. I grew up here. I live here. And when I joined the tech sector, that's kind of my background. When I joined the tech sector 14 years ago, I got to work here, but I worked for a consulting company bringing different products and services to the market. And so we got to sell kind of all across Europe, all across Canada and the US, which was a really great first experience. And because they're a consulting company, they sold to a lot of different industries. And so it was really the norm to talk to government and then insurance and then private sector and kind of do that. And when we were doing that, it was pretty evident just around how you thread the needle between those different sectors, right? And what that looks like. And it's the same, whether you're in the tech sector or within business, bringing that kind of value and understanding what your value is to clients is a huge piece of it.
Value.
You probably heard me say that a lot.
I have heard you say value, and you've given us documents to work to find our value statement or where our value is. It's easier said than done at times. So what's your approach? And actually this course, I should say, was brought to us through Enlo.
Yes.
And again, another wonderful affiliation. And while I'm on that topic, you were a speaker here at the conference.
Yes.
Okay, tell us a little bit about that.
Sure. So kind of all in the same vein. So I was so happy to chat today at the Enlo conference because it was around the path to growth in a changing sales landscape, which is applicable exactly to my business. So with Rivet, the goal is to help companies go from really early stage, in this case tech, to their first few $1 million. And to do that and to grow, they really need to focus in on what is the value they're bringing to the market. And so I think how things have changed a lot is that you're not going to the market with features and what things look like. People are also getting completely bombarded with information. Like, think about yourself, what kind of emails you get, what kind of calls you get. You're only going to answer and respond to things that you actually care about and that are not broad. And so I feel like I've spent my whole sales career trying to teach teams how to be not salesy, because it's just people don't have time for that anymore, and the pandemic kind of tenfolded that really quickly. And so when we talk to any company, even if the goal is we want to hit this revenue or we want to get this many customers, we actually 90% of the time have to go back to the value proposition. It doesn't matter kind of how we start the conversation. We'll always kind of start at that base, make sure that makes sense, and then how do we go from there? Because everything hinges on that. I was really happy to do the pitch training because it's the same thing, right? Pitch training, but what are you going to say? You need to go back to what your value proposition is. And so I think there's just so much merit in revisiting that and making sure it's what where you can help.
Well, one of my guests said, I hate sales because it's how you think about sales.
Yeah.
I think we all hate sales when we think of smarmy. Was it what, WKRP one time? Probably too old for you, but there was a sales guy on there, and I mean, it was what we all think of, the used car sales guy.
Yes.
And this is not what it's all about. That doesn't cut it anymore. It's like, and again, selling, I think they said you never sell features, you sell benefits. What is it there that I can take away? What's your value proposition?
Right.
Am I doing okay, Teach?
You're doing so great.
Okay, thank you. What's my value proposition that I'm gonna take away and show you the benefits of being with me on this journey? So it's a little bit of a mind switch, but especially maybe a bigger mind switch. How are you getting people from nothing in tech up to a couple of million? That's interesting.
Yeah. So I mean, I think the thing is, no one is going to buy from you unless you're solving a challenge. Like what I really like about tech is that people have to solve massive challenges and they have to solve them with the idea that they can do it on a global scale. And so it forces them to adapt really, really quickly because you have to really double down on what's working and figure out what that is. If you talk to 10 customers, first of all, how do you get 10 customers to talk to you? Then once you're talking to them, if it's not going anywhere, you do not have the time, money, or resources to keep doing that. So you have got to figure out what they care about. And you need to kind of like narrow the field. So that's a piece of it. Like, how do you narrow the field? Because you really just cannot be everything to everyone. And that's across any business, tech or not. And so I think understanding like what actual pain points can you solve, or what motivations do buyers have to buy from you is a big piece of it. And I do think like people think like, oh, like you hear a lot scalable sales process and you think like, oh, perfect. Someone's going to come in and just set up some systems and it'll be a beautiful, like it'll be a perfect upward path. Right. But I actually find sales is pretty nitty gritty. Like you do have to do the right things. You do have to have the right things in place to help yourself, but you are figuring it out. Like you are like adapting as you go and figuring it out. And so I really like the pitch training because we're just doing it at a higher level. We're figuring it out a bit before we get to the conversation, and then we're going to have the conversation and we're going to learn what happens, and then we're going to go back and keep doing that.
I mean, truly these days there's so much noise in getting yourself. Do you have any tips for people trying to get to get in that initial call? I mean, you have your pitch. Where do you go then?
Yeah. So I think what I found when I was like selling for a long time, but when I was like, wait a minute, this is like actually a big difference now. I was working from Newfoundland, but I was working for a company in California, and they were selling cybersecurity solutions. And cybersecurity, again, is like a big general term that can be a whole bunch of different things, and there's lots of different niches within there. But we needed to actually prove a lot of value. We needed to talk to the very heads of these companies, and we happen to be selling into the heads of all like commonly known like Fortune 500 companies. And so we need to talk to the head of, name a company that was a common brand, to talk to them. But it was the pandemic, and there's cybersecurity concerns across the board. And so to get to them was so incredibly hard that we had to like triple down on what actually matters and how do we talk to them. And otherwise we would have like never gotten in the door. And so it was a really good effort. And ever since the pandemic, you can like draw a line in the sand. Getting through that noise is 10 times harder, and what that looks like. And so I think, if you don't have something to say, that's a big problem. But even for impact, people can say a lot of things, but it has to be actually change their mind enough to change what they're doing right now, because we all get very comfortable in what we know and how we operate, and even if you know there's a better way, you're not going to change your behavior unless it's that painful.
That painful.
Yeah.
Well, I think in our course one day you explained how one time you had done this presentation and you thought it was great, and I don't know, you finished the story.
Yes. So I learned a lot of things. Sorry, and to answer your question a second ago, I think you have to lead people down the path a little bit, because one, people don't know what your industry sells. If you were to ask me, you don't know what I sell until I kind of paint that picture for you, right? Until I say I do this and this and this. So it's on me, the onus is on me as a company to kind of explain, like, here's what I do in a bucket, and then you tell people like how that can help them depending on what they care about. But I've done every mistake in the book for sure.
This is how we learn.
Yeah. Come to me if you want to avoid some of the mistakes. This is the real thing, right? So, one time, really early on, actually not even really, I probably would do this yesterday, but I was talking to a client and I was so chuffed. I was so happy because I was like, this is great. The presentation went smoothly. I didn't mess up. I said everything I need to say, and this is awesome. And then my boss at the time, who was a really nice guy, he was like, and how do you think that went? And I was like, well, I pretty good, And he's like, no, I don't think they're going to call us back. And I said, well, what do you mean? This was great. We talked, And he's like, how much do you think you talked versus they talked? And I was like, oh no. And I was doing most of the talking. I said every word I wanted to say, and I said it in a way that I wanted to say it, but I was not listening, and I was not adapting, and that went nowhere. That literally went nowhere. They were very kind, and they're like, yes, thank you. But I didn't actually find out what they actually care about on that call, which was my actual job, not to deliver a perfect pitch. And so anyways, that was a huge lesson learned. I think if you ever use Gong or different sales tools now, it's like a common practice to know how much are you talking versus how much is a prospect or a potential client talking.
I love this. What a great note to wrap on. And I'm just going to go back to Dale Carnegie. Let the other person do most of the talking. And that was way back in the 50s. So, we're just recycling him, but for today's market. And aren't you doing it great? I love talking to you. Really great to meet you.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Joanna Brown. Well, don't go away. We'll be right back. Well, that was a great interview with Joanna. And people ask me, how do you keep your energy up for all these interviews? We've established I'm an Aries, so there's plenty of energy to go around, but every now and then I can use a coffee. Well, hello.
Okay. Yeah, see. Your dish has arrived. Please follow the indicator to pick up your food as soon as possible.
Like right now. Well, thank you.
It is a pleasure to serve you. Looking forward to seeing you again.
There's no question. I think you'll see me again. It's so much fun to do things like this, and you never know what you're going to see at an Enlow conference. So please continue to join us for Women Rising, and I'll see you next time.